techniques combined with the sensibilities of the German Grossmesser, mostly by Joachim Meyer in 1570. But I'm going to leave the rapier stuff to John, who is our primary rapier instructor.
Thank you, Greg. All right, so when most people hear about rapier, what they're expecting to see is weapons kind of like this. Very fancy hills, long, skinny blade. This was used, you see this much later. This is late 16th century, early 17th century in England, in France, and in Italy. In Germany, they used much simpler swords. They would either use a sword with a simple cross and a circle, or even just a very simple cross hilt. Because the techniques that they're working with have evolved from what we've seen with the Grossmesser and the longsword, this whole linear tradition that Craig has been talking about. So, because I get to talk now, it's my turn to have Craig.
Should we turn around so you can see
the initial actions that you see with, let me just go back a little bit. The first guy to really talk about rapier in the German tradition was a guy named Joachim Meyer, who published his book. It was the first German manual that was actually printed on a printing press that we could now scribe in 1570. And this is a huge, hundreds and hundreds of pages broken up into 4 sections. There's a section on longsword, there's a section on a sparring weapon called a dussack, which is kind of like a leather club. And then you have a whole section on rapier. Rapier section is broken into 2 other parts. One talking about basic actions within the tradition, and then a whole other section talking about how to put these pieces together in order to stop our opponent from stabbing us. He talks a lot about avoiding foreign influence on German fighting, especially the fact that they have brought in or brought back the thrust as a strong aspect of combat. The biggest difference that you see with German rapier as opposed to German messer or longsword is that your sword foot and your sword hand are both forward at the same time, as opposed to what we were doing just a few moments ago with the Grossmesser. Alright? So we're starting out here. The position is called iron gate. All of the positions have a forward-facing component that is used to promote thrusting and thrust-based fighting. So, from this position, I can attack Craig with a thrust fairly easily, although he doesn't really have the lunge in the same way that we see in modern Olympic fencing. We also have the ability to enter into distance with a cut, but again, because we're keeping that right foot forward, it's a slightly different cut, and it's done with more of a lunging motion. So Craig will just put his sword down for a moment so I don't impale myself on it. The lunge either comes forward with a thrust, here, like this, and then back, or he comes in with a cut. Alright? We're going to show the same basic play that we explored with the longsword, except done with the rapier. So start with the right foot forward. And I'm going to enter into distance exactly the same way I did with the longsword, with a cut. Boom. Craig is going to counter this cut with a cut of his own. Bring his tip online. Now at this position, he's catching me as I'm recoiling, coming back. I recoil into a position called box, which you see with the longsword, and I can come forward again. Boom. At which point, Craig can either come forward with the pommel, as we saw with the longsword, or he can push me to the other side, and I can sit back on mine. At which point, I can come around with the square arm. So these are all very similar motions to what you see with the longsword, but executed with a completely different weapon and slightly different footwork, which they are stealing from the Italians. You also see a bunch of other motions. Because they are not fully rooted in the longsword tradition, they have access to other attacks. One is my personal favorite, mostly because of the name. The name for this is called Gurgle Stitch. We're going to switch sides on this one. Okay. The Gurgle Stitch is so called because it's an attack to the neck. The same way we get the name Gorget. So this responds to a midline cross.
Not really.
against both thrusts and cuts. The next action we'll show is a disarm. And we have two methods of doing this, a push method and a pull method. This starts from a guard called flute, which is a lower, or the plow, which is a lower forward-pointing guard. Again, with this regular pull. And this is how you would actually do it in longsword. On the other side, it's still we just go to do it. So Craig is going to attack me with a cut here, seeing that I have my head wide open. I bring my sword up. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to move my body. I just need to put my sword in the way. And then I have two options. I can either grab his pommel and push. Now, if he's smart, he will let go here, because I'm going to twist his arm right around. But Meyer has, the safety of the martial artist in mind when he says, if your opponent doesn't want to let go of the sword, hit him in the joints with your pommel. So you're going to strike to his wrist or to his elbow, potentially to his shoulder, it's a bit far to reach, and convince him that it is in his best interest to let go of that sword. That's the push option. The pull option is slightly more encouraging if your opponent is yield to fight to. Again, you begin in the same position. Again, you invite the same attack, except at this point, I'm going to reach for my hand the other way around, and I'm going to push as I step here. I have, let's just turn around here. Rather than my sword is in there, you know sword is in there. This is the point where you can say, perhaps, this is the apologize.
I would like to just point out, in case it's not obvious, that John and I don't actually count on each other's goals. As much as we do free play.